When I was in middle school and high school, I wrote in a diary. I would wake up in the morning, go to school, come home, and play video games or chat with online message board friends, and before going to sleep that night, I would jot down some of the important events that had happened in the day. Things I had thought a lot about, or things that I had felt very strongly. Now, full disclosure, I don't keep a journal anymore. Maybe I still should. I don't know. But one thing I do know is that sometimes, scrawled in pencil along those old diary pages, I'd address the journal to someone. To the only person I could ever really imagine reading it, I would address it to myself, to someone I used to call future me. I don't know if this is gonna sound weird or not, or maybe it's something other people did, but I'd write things like, "I don't know if you remember this, but this was an important day, future me." Or, if I was feeling extra confident, I might make the comment, "I can't imagine you've forgotten about this, future me, but just in case, I'll explain it here." So, now that it's been about 10 years since I last wrote in a diary, is that me? Am I now this future me? Is there even a clear split between the future me that I guess is now and the past me that once was the present me? Or am I still the same person? I've always been the same person. There's no future me at all. But the opposite could be just as true. Maybe every single day I'm being reborn. It's like there's been an infinite number of me's over this past 10 years. If that's the case, who even was future me? Who was I writing to? And this is just me wondering about my own sense of self. What about other people? I think that many of us, especially a lot of young people, experience a kind of deep inner loneliness in spite of the interconnected world all around us. Because if we can't even know ourselves, how are we supposed to know other people? We feel this human need to connect, but what are we supposed to do when we can never really know for sure how other people feel, or how they even just see the world? How do we push forward living a normal, happy life when each of us will die alone? How much is our life even worth when there's 7 billion of us? I mean, each day, over like 100,000 people we've never met and never are going to meet are going to die, only to be replaced like an assembly line by thousands of new babies being born. More people we're never going to meet. I mean, this stuff is real. We share countless hours walking alongside strangers at school, at work, in the street, and these people are going through thoughts, emotions, traumas, and experiences that we can only guess at. Are any of these lives worth anything objectively? How much is our own life even worth? Qualia the Purple is one of many stories that addresses these types of questions and feelings of uncertainty. Since it has helped me grapple with my own concept of existence, I'd like to tell you about this lesser-known manga that, despite having way too much dialogue in it about quantum theory, puts forward a vision of an empathetic future that just might help you too. Based on the original light novel by the same name, Qualia the Purple is a 3-volume manga written by Hisamitsu Ueo and Shiro Tsunashima from 2011 to 2013. The manga has not been localized in English or officially released in the West, so all you will see in this video, unfortunately, are scanned fan-translated pages. The title Qualia the Purple stems from the eyes of the character the story ultimately revolves around, a young girl by the name of Yukari Mari who has mysterious purple eyes. And this striking color isn't the only thing strange about her eyes, because this girl sees people as robots. Ueo, the author of the manga, explains in a special comment page following Chapter 6 that Yukari Mari's name was inspired by and intended as a reference to the thought experiment called Mary's Room. Ueo writes, "Mary is a girl who was born in a room where only black and white exist, and has never left it. But being an incredible genius, she knows about the colors she has never seen. If she ever leaves that room, and sees what those colors truly look like, what will she feel? So, the purple part of the Qualia the Purple title comes from Yukari Mari's eye color. And the qualia part is a little harder to explain, especially if you're not super well versed in quantum theory, and I'm not. But my basic understanding is that qualia refers to qualitative understanding, the actual experience of something, versus something quantitative or numerical in that you understand it by the numbers or in a more mathematical scientific sense. Qualia is actually experiencing it firsthand. Now, Yukari's childhood friend, Nanami Tenjo, is sickened and disturbed by Yukari's eyes. Nanami says Yukari is like a philosophical zombie, someone who knows how to be human at an intellectual level, but doesn't actually feel things like a normal human would. This means basically that she has the scientific understanding, but not the qualia, not the first-hand experience. In other words, because Yukari sees people as robots, she is alienated from the world, and this would ironically make her more like a robot than anyone else, going through the motions of imitating human behavior without actually feeling it like others do. Nanami explains that if a philosophical zombie were to see a tasty apple, they wouldn't drool because they are hungry. Rather, they would drool because they know that's what a human is supposed to do. It's not natural for them to drool, it's an act, something that's not genuine. Nanami says she might not be a philosophical zombie, but we can't see what she sees. We can't feel what she feels. If red and tasty isn't the same for us and her, we might as well be philosophical zombies to each other. And the question being implied here is, if two people look at the world in fundamentally different ways, can they ever truly connect, or will there always be this impenetrable separation? When Yukari and Nanami first met, they were both very young, and Nanami had to teach Yukari how to smile, because Yukari was a child who didn't seem to feel human emotions. She had to be taught how to smile, when it's normal for a human to laugh, frown, cry, etc. Nanami taught her these things and learned about how Yukari sees people. Now, at first, it wouldn't be that strange to assume that Yukari has some form of delusion or mental illness, because it seems at first like it's either A, people are robots, and Yukari's the only one who can see that, or more likely, B, people aren't actually robots, Yukari's perception is just wrong. But the manga doesn't choose between that binary. Instead, the manga shows that when Yukari looks at people, they truly are robots. And when others look at people, they truly are not robots. Nanami learned this firsthand in a very hard way. When they were young and playing together at a jungle gym, Nanami fell, and it was a lethal fall. Nanami had died. But Yukari put her back together again using jungle gym parts. Because, after all, to her, Nanami truly was repairable as a robot. In the story of Qualia the Purple, perception causes reality. Yukari is able to repair Nanami. For the rest of their lives, Yukari will see Nanami as a robot with jungle gym parts for body parts, whereas everyone else, along with Nanami herself, will only see a normal, living, breathing, human girl. However, the protagonist of Qualia the Purple actually isn't either Yukari or Nanami. It is a third girl named Hato Manabu. Hato first met Yukari when the latter stumbled into her in a face-planting encounter resulting in an accidental kiss. Since this incident, Hato has accepted Yukari, just thinking of her as a strange girl, maybe a bit delusional, who happened to have a knack for putting together mech models and fixing old TV sets. But then one day, the police show up, and they start to ask Yukari questions to help identify the culprit behind a series of especially gruesome murders. When Hato catches a glimpse of the crime scene photos, she sees bloody body parts of dismembered human corpses, while Yukari sees robot parts, not really that much different from the parts she would use to connect her mech models. And immediately, Yukari is able to identify the culprit behind the murders just from taking a glance at the series of photos. And strangely enough, I'm pretty sure this murder girl isn't really given a name, and if she is given a name, it's barely in the manga. So, for the purposes of this video, I'm gonna just refer to her as Dismemberment Girl. Anyway, so flash forward a few days, and Hatao is suddenly captured by Dismemberment Girl, and brought to what looks like an abandoned warehouse. Dismemberment Girl severs Hatao's arm without any sign of hesitation or remorse, leaving Hatao a stunned, bloody mess on the floor. Yukari comes to the rescue, and Dismemberment Girl reveals that this had been her motive all along. She had captured and mutilated Hatao specifically to draw in Yukari, because, she claims, they have the same eyes. Like Yukari, Dismemberment Girl does not see people as humans. Instead, Dismemberment Girl sees people as meat sacks. The serial killer then explains, "Everyone says life is sacred, but I can't see what's so sacred about it. That's why I have no problem doing this." At this time, Yukari confesses that while people look like robots, robots still look like robots. And this leads Dismemberment Girl to ask, "Is there any difference in your eyes between those humans that look like robots and actual robots?" And Yukari admits there isn't. Overjoyed, Dismemberment Girl begins to shout her maniacal joy. This was the truth she had wanted to hear. "I knew it! My eyes weren't wrong. I've been seeing the truth all along. Humans are just meat sacks, machines made of organic matter. There's no way life is sacred. It's just a delusion, nothing more than a wrong assumption. Souls don't exist." Dismemberment Girl sees humans as nothing more than meat sacks. She has suspected all her life that that is all humans are, just meat. Meat that has managed to trick itself into believing it's something special, something truly alive. And because she's finally found someone else who also doesn't see humans as humans, because she is convinced Yukari perceives the world just like she does, Dismemberment Girl now doesn't doubt her beliefs anymore. Someone else has validated her feelings. "I couldn't find the answer no matter how many I dismembered," she explains. "But you've finally shown me. The world wasn't right, I was. Humans aren't sacred beings. They aren't special beings with a soul. They're just something a little more complex than regular machines. They're moving meat sacks. That's what humans truly are. Life is nothing more than made-up stuff." But Yukari shatters this confidence. While Yukari admits that yes, she does see humans as robots, she clarifies that that does not mean she thinks human life is worthless. Suddenly, Yukari's mecha models swarm into the warehouse. They move with an animated life. They spring into action and knock Dismemberment Girl's blade from her hand, and Yukari says, "I don't know what they look like to you, but they are all my friends." As explained earlier, because Yukari sees people and robots as the same thing, it means that she can repair people like she can repair a robot. But it also means that robots can do the kind of things that people can do. They can move, they can have life. Both robots and humans have the same value to her, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a low value. Yukari sees both as having life worth preserving. Yukari rejects the nihilism and carnage of Dismemberment Girl's philosophy and saves Hatao just like she had saved Nanami all those years ago at the jungle gym, by using spare parts. In this case, Yukari repairs Hatao's severed arm using her cell phone. Later, when Yukari wakes up, she is in her own bed, unsure of how much she remembers had really happened, and how much she had just simply imagined or dreamed up. But then she gets a phone call, and it is her hand that is ringing. Hatao's hand now functions like a cell phone, but since this was a phone that they had only just bought together recently, only she and Yukari know the number. Sure enough, it was Yukari who was calling her through her hand. Unlike Nanami, who had bitter mixed feelings on Yukari after her incident, Hato quickly recognized that Yukari's special perception doesn't mean they can't be friends. In fact, it's what saved her life. But pretty much as soon as a new normal in their friend dynamic could be established, a new student transferred to the school, one who would change things forever. Alice Foyle, a name which Hato herself later speculates was probably chosen by the girl as a reference to Alice in Wonderland, shares a similarity with the Dismemberment Girl, in that Alice, like the Dismemberment Girl, was another person who seeks out Yukari because she thinks they share similar eyes. Alice's eyes let her see equations and math problems as images. She can solve incredibly complex problems just by drawing a simple picture. Alice comes to their school specifically to recruit Yukari to a secret organization that's called Jaunt. It's an organization trying to provide sanctuary for geniuses with exceptional perception. Alice warns Yukari that Jaunt is the only place that can keep Yukari safe, and it's the only place where Yukari can be herself. If everyone knew about Yukari's eyes, she would be in danger, and if she tries to continue to keep her eyes a secret, people will still find out about it, just like Dismemberment Girl had, and next time, it could end up even worse. Hato, not wanting to lose her dear friend, is reluctant at first, but she eventually tells Yukari that she should join Jaunt. So Yukari leaves, time passes, and then one day, Hato receives a call from her hand. The person on the other end, the person who is calling her in a panic, is herself. Hi, this is the part where the manga literally has a page that says, "This is the point of no return." So I am similarly going to warn you, if you continue with this video any further, you will be spoiled on some of the major twists and turns of Qualia the Purple, and this includes the ending. I've only talked about half of the story so far, and the second half gets wild. If Qualia the Purple sounds like something you'd like to read without being spoiled on the second half, you should go read it, like, right now. Pause the video. Go, read it. I know it's not officially translated in English, but, like, you know it's out there, right? Just, go read the thing and come back. Okay? I mean, are you sure you're all good to go? Well, alright. Yukari dies. It turns out that Jaunt had only wanted Yukari for her ability. And when they couldn't quite figure her out and she wasn't cooperating the way they wanted her to, they dissected her and extracted her brain. And even then, they couldn't actually tap into what made her eyes work. So Yukari died for nothing. Thus enters the sole motivation for our protagonist for the rest of the manga. Hato is determined to save Yukari, no matter what she has to do to make it happen. Because of some quantum theory stuff that gets real theoretical and weird, basically Hato is able to communicate with other versions of herself through her hand phone. This power means that, for example, if Hato A were to go and investigate Jaunt, while Hato B were to spend time with Yukari's family to learn more information about her, Hato C could find out what A and B had learned, and thus have that information while being able to move forward with her own route. Hato compares this whole process to being like light. Light always takes the quickest path to where it's going. Hato is determined to use her parallel selves to exhaust an infinite number of possibilities, until at long last she finds the one that gets her to her goal of saving Yukari's life. I did fall in love once or twice. It felt like love at least, but we never got married. I wasn't upset when we went our separate ways. I graduated from college and became a freelancer. Once, I ended up destroying my health through volunteer work. I failed in one relationship only to find another. Once, I found myself beginning to cry after seeing children play. I lived to age 47 in one world. In another, I died at age 15. I died at 15 7 times, and at 16 3 times. Most of the time, I was murdered. I stowed away on a ship bound for a foreign country once. It wasn't something a girl should have attempted. Hatao goes full-on Homura Akemi and keeps learning new skills from these other lives, and each time she dies, she just continues on at that same reset point, the moment she discovered the hand phone, until she realized that even that was a limitation, that she could go back before she even had the phone installed in her hand. She could find a reality where she could go back to being a child with the hand phone. If it could happen in a parallel world, then there had to be a parallel world where it did happen. In some of her lives, she was best friends with Alice. In some of her lives, she abused Alice, tortured Alice, sometimes even killed Alice. And she is shocked to learn that in one lifetime, a version of her actually fell in love with Alice. And because of that experience, another Hatao later is able to learn how to manipulate Alice and make Alice fall in love with her to use her. But every single time Hatao tries something new, Yukari would keep dying. Any new possibility that Hatao can imagine suddenly opens itself to her as a new opportunity. It reaches a point where Hatao realizes that there surely must be alternative worlds where she is someone else, so she starts communicating with alternate Hataos that are other people, random friends of hers from school, even Yukari's own mom. Strangely though, as this happens, there are some people she can't be. She can't be Alice, and she can't be Yukari. Just put a pin in that for now. The important element of this is that Hatao now has another weapon in her arsenal, that she can become pretty much anyone that's ever existed. And yet, in spite of that, in spite of being able to be anyone, pretty much, she still can't save Yukari. But she can't let herself give up on her best friend. She keeps going, lifetime after lifetime, hardening after hardening, suddenly not even feeling like the same person anymore, losing whatever shred of identity and ego she used to have. Hatao is becoming less and less Hatao. All of these countless lives culminate in a world where Hatao, in the body of Hatao, manipulates Alice to fall in love with her, and she pretends to be an ardent believer in Jaunt. She continues with this life until she becomes the leader of Jaunt, and thus accesses all of the talent and resources of the secret organization. Somehow, Jaunt is able to replicate an image of what is called the theory of everything, and Hatao, as their leader, reaches a stage of enlightenment in this moment of seeing this image that gives her a new alternative. Instead of repeatedly reincarnating at different ages, with different lifestyles, or as different people, this time she would simply not exist. Hatao becomes something almost like a god, or an invisible spirit. She's there for the beginning of the universe. She's there for the start of life on Earth. She experiences over 10 billion years of loneliness, an inconceivable amount of lifetimes, where there were no humans to observe at all. Through mass extinctions, Hatao existed as an unseen presence, a consciousness without a body, until finally humans arrived, and she could watch human history unfold before her eyes up until that moment where she herself was born. And this presence, once called Hatao, this pure consciousness, is able to watch as a new Hatao, someone who looks just like her but isn't her, because she's able to watch them from the outside. She watches as this Hatao becomes friends with Yukari that same fateful day with that same fateful kiss. And like Hatao's first timeline, Yukari leaves for Jaunt, and they do try to experiment on her, but right when Yukari's about to be dissected, this time the FBI breaks in and stops them. Yukari is rushed in to receive medical care. The spirit that was once Hatao watches as Yukari is lying in this hospital bed, and Yukari wakes up. And with no one else in the room, Yukari looks around and sees Hatao. Now, by this point, it's probably evident that a lot happens in this manga, so if I have somehow forgotten something that is pivotal to understanding the plotline, I do apologize. I encourage you to read the manga if you want to understand more of this, but the basic idea is that at this time, Hatao doesn't have a body. Yukari should not be able to see her. Hatao's confused how this is even possible. And yet, Yukari can. Yukari sees her pure consciousness. Even after all this time, all these lifetimes, there's still things about Yukari's eyes that Hatao doesn't know about. Yukari's eyes still hold mysteries. Hatao proceeds to tell Yukari everything, or at least as much of everything that she could probably explain in one sitting, and Yukari listens without judgment, before finally correcting Hatao on an important point. I told you earlier to put a pin in this, but Hatao, in all of her infinite lifetimes, never could become Alice or Yukari. She couldn't. She couldn't imagine a parallel world where she was those people, and Yukari suggests that's because Hatao can't actually see the world through their special eyes. Furthermore, Hatao never really had been anyone else. Even when she took on the form of Yukari's mom, lived out the life of Yukari's mom, she wasn't ever actually able to be her. The best Hatao had ever been able to do was find a reality where she could imitate them, where it was her consciousness living their lifetime. Yukari's point is that no one can ever see the world through another person's eyes, and that's just how it is. For Yukari, there's a beauty in that. Yukari says that she wants Hatao to be her friend, to go back to being the normal Hatao, not some weird, omnipotent god spirit. But Hatao doubts that she can. Through all these lifetimes of being different versions of herself, doing unspeakably cruel acts, living out multiple lifetimes with multiple loves, multiple hates, multiple identities, and physically being throughout all of time, Hatao forgot how to be herself. But Yukari points out that isn't possible. All Hatao's ever been is herself. She couldn't have been anyone else. And sure, regular Hatao can't change Yukari's fate, but no one except Yukari can control her own destiny. And that's the point. Nothing Hatao's doing can actually help. In the end, the best thing that Hatao can do is be herself, and just be Yukari's friend. If there truly are parallel worlds out there, I wonder, in how many of them does Qualia the Purple exist? Either in the form we have it now, or in some other unknown form. I also wonder, are we in one of the timelines where just maybe, at some point in the future there will be an official English release, either of the manga or the light novel? It's probably wishful thinking, most likely. Anyway, I'm going to end this video by sharing some of the thoughts that Qualia the Purple has left me with. We can never really see through anyone else's eyes. At our best, we can start to imagine what it would be like to imitate them. But even if we imagine ourselves in their shoes, we can't escape the fact that it's still imagining ourselves in someone else's role. We can never escape our own selves. We can never not be ourselves. There are billions of us. Sometimes it's easy to feel like we are just drops in this endless ocean of human lives throughout all of history. Individually, we are insignificant. It's honestly a bit unhealthy to believe that your life is so special that it's going to stand out against like 7 billion other people. However, there's a danger in assuming that just because we have that individual insignificance, that we are nothing but sacks of meat. Dismemberment Girl is wrong because she thinks that all we are is flesh, when in reality we all have something individually unique. We have our consciousness, our soul, our eyes, what the story calls qualia. You can call it whatever. This is something unique to each individual person that elevates us beyond the flesh. And no matter what you do, your version of reality is going to be different than everyone else's. No two human beings are going to look at the world exactly the same. Now, maybe it's science fiction to believe that seeing people as robots means you can fix them like robots, but the very idea that our perception can make reality happen, there might be something to that. People are simply advanced machines. You can choose whether to view them as meat sacks without a soul, or instead, you can choose to view them as dear friends. If all humans are is biological machinery, is that so bad? All we can be is ourselves, and all that someone else can be is themselves. You can choose to view these differences with distrust and lament that we are so different and unknown to each other. Or instead, you can choose to view these differences with excitement and celebrate that we are so different and unknown to each other. I mean, isn't that what love is? Spending your time with someone to learn more about how they see the world? It'd be so much more boring if we all viewed reality the same way. Differences can be fascinating and lovely. To quote David Byrne of the Talking Heads, sometimes it's a form of love just to talk to somebody that you have nothing in common with and still be fascinated by their presence. We all could have turned out like anyone else. There's something powerful in the kind of empathy that can spring forward when we realize that the differences between us really are so incidental and random. That kind of understanding can create a radical empathy. You could have been born anywhere, with any skin color, with any type of parents, under the rule of any type of government in the world, raised with the beliefs of any religion or philosophy. You could have fallen in love with anyone. And who is to say what illness, physical or mental, you could have had or not had? But those things did not happen to you. You are you, and everyone else is turning out how they're turning out. When you really understand this, isn't the empathy that can develop one that is radical and strong? It makes me want to help create a world where we can celebrate those human differences. I hope that you can see yourself reflected in the eyes of someone you love. It can make this specific life of yours so special. And if you're watching this, future me, don't forget this.